slicing up the labor in a different way,
Right.
Does every one of those workers who are feeling disempowered, are they doing different tasks, or how is that new structure imposed? If it is like, what generates that?
Well, there's two parts to this question, I think, both very good. One part is, well, what's the end result? What does it look like to have a workplace which is classless, basically? That's what we're asking, right? So that's one. And then the second question, which is actually much harder, is, well, what's the transition? What is it? How do you get from where we are to there? But until you have the there in there, you can't really ask the transition question very sensibly, I don't think.
Well, let me just, the end could be a function of the process versus.
It is.
Okay. So
it is very much, because if the process, that is the process of doing what? Of opposing current economics, of opposing capitalism, of trying for a new system. So that's the process we're talking about. If that process is blind to the possibility, or even seeing that there could be a class that is not owners, that is the new ruling class, a new boss in place of the old boss. If it's blind to that, if it says, look, there's only workers and owners, and so if we get rid of owners, we win, then it's almost inexorable, I think, that when you get rid of owners, you'll get the new boss in place of the old boss. But suppose instead you're sensitive to this possibility, and so you think that, well, how do you solve it? You solve it by having jobs, each of which is comparably empowering to the rest. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean everybody does everything. That's ridiculous, okay? So it doesn't mean that. But it does mean, I don't know, people like to use a hospital as an example, I guess, because everybody's been in one at one time or another. So it does mean that people don't only do surgery, and people don't only clean bedpans. Instead, people do a mix of things. Can you do this overnight? No. But over time, can you attain a situation where your workforce is, by its daily activities, all prepared to be confident enough and aware enough and have enough information to participate effectively in decision making, instead of 80% going home? We call that balanced job complexes, and that's one institutional feature of this thing called participatory economics.
How do you attain that? I mean, I'm just thinking about, obviously, not everybody is capable of doing surgery. That's fine, because there's plenty of other things in the hospital that need to be done that can be empowering besides the surgery. But how do you, how is that, is it assigned? Or is it developed from the order? Yeah, it's one thing to, and then this is, sort of the difficulty here is the limited imagination that we have, because we're coming out of this type of system. Like, is it every worker sort of says, like, oh, here's 5 choices for me, I'm going to do this one, that one, or how does it work?
No, imagine a workplace. So in the current version of that workplace, you could almost ask the same question. That is, in the current version of that workplace, you apply for a job, right? That's what you do. And you get hired and you have the job. Now, the fact is, you can't apply for a job that is a balanced job. There's no such thing in the workplace. Each and every job is either on the coordinator class side, empowered, or on the working class side, disempowered. So what's the difference? The difference is that in a new workplace, the jobs that you apply for are all balanced, right? So and who divides up the tasks into the jobs? The Workers' Council. The answer to every question, we can short circuit it. The answer to every question about who decides what's going on in the workplace is the Workers' Council, of course, in context of the desires of the whole population, but it's basically the Workers' Council. So the Workers' Council is deciding. So I was in a workplace called South End Press, where basically what we did, and this was even before participatory economics was well defined, right? But we sat around and we realized if you had, somebody who was in charge of the finances and somebody who had the best contacts with the authors, they'd run the show, whatever else you did, even if they didn't own the business, right? Because we were nonprofit. Nobody's going to own it. So we decided that we had to figure out a way to apportion the tasks in South End Press so that they would not cause, even against our will, somebody to be elevated to dominance. It's a relatively small group. And so we had everybody doing editorial work. And that took care of that part of the problem. We had everybody sharing in things like, taking the mail, answering the phone, et cetera, et cetera. And we had people all doing a particular kind of work, like, for instance, keeping the books or dealing with fulfillment. It's, in other words, fulfilling orders for books, dealing with the design of things, dealing with promotion, and so on. And to a certain extent, that would change over time. But what we didn't have is, people cleaning for other people ruling. It's not easy to do that inside capitalism. You have to have a whole lot of commitment to it, and you have to buck the pressure of the market and buck the pressure of banks that want, to deal with the boss, and so on and so forth. But you can do it. It's possible. But in a fully transformed society, and we haven't talked about other elements of this, but in a fully transformed society, it becomes natural. Right now, you don't go into a workplace and apply for a job and ask, how come it's not balanced? No one expects any such thing, right?
Right.
In a participatory economy, you go into a workplace, and if you were given a list of jobs and one of them was unbalanced, you would say, what the hell is this?
Well, then, right? This essentially vision eliminate the managerial class that has emerged in our iteration of global capitalism?
Yeah, I call it the coordinator class. Okay. It was originally called, you're right, the professional managerial class, Barbara Ehrenreich and John Ehrenreich, a long time ago. And at South End Press, we published their famous essay. And that's what got the ball rolling in some ways. You don't eliminate all the tasks. I mean, some of them you eliminate because they're disgusting and worthless, but tons of empowering tasks are necessary and essential. So you don't eliminate the tasks. You just disperse them a little bit more than before so that everybody has an empowering situation. And look at one immediate implication. Right now, with 20% doing empowering and 80% doing disempowering, what does the educational system has to do? Well, the public school system, the school system literally has to graduate 20% who expect to be dominant, right? And 80% who are prepared to take orders and endure boredom. And that's what school does for 80% of the students.
It basically a sorting process as opposed to a fully educating process.
Yes, and it isn't even, it's a debilitating process. I mean, the idea that the school system is to educate, it's not to educate the 80%. It's to deliver the 80% to the economy prepared to fit. And that means prepared to take orders and to endure boredom. And I don't know how far afield you want to go, but after the 60s, this became a very conscious policy.